All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Today we're going to be going over a study that really looks at self-determination theory, which is something that we're looking at more. And the real reason being is because I want athletes to be able to shape their environment to be able to succeed. A lot of you are putting in the workouts, you're doing what you need to be doing, but sometimes we miss the mark on the daily activity, the lifestyle stuff, but we might be crushing it in training. Good example of getting 10, 15,000 steps in a day is great, but that's not so great if you go sit on your butt for 14 hours after that, even though you got your steps in with a long run in the morning. So we're going to be looking at a really awesome study that kind of goes over this idea and this principle, and I'm pretty excited to dive into it. Dave is here as well. What's up, Dave?
Jerred, excited. Let's dive in.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. So I'll go over the real quick ins and outs of the study, just so people know how big it was. So it was across 4 different countries in Europe. There are 560 overweight men aged 30 to 65 years old. And the big picture, just in my own terms, what were they looking at? They invited these people to some sort of club. I'm not real familiar with Eurofit club. It's a European fans in training. So these people who were fans of all these different soccer clubs across Europe, you can kind of join this program and you get to train with a coach. And these coaches were trained specifically in the self-determination theory. So a quick refresher on SDT. It's really finding out the intrinsic motivators for a person. So that normally comes down to autonomy, like being able to select what you do, competence, being good at that thing, and relatedness, being able to do it with other people. And they trained these coaches on really meeting the people's needs of what they wanted, fostering conversations, as opposed to this real hard-nosed approach of just, hey, you need to get it done, you suck, get better, all these things. And I think this is very interesting. I'm going to pause there because I kind of want to talk about that coaching mentality. I know you've coached a lot of people. What is generally your take that you've seen most successful with somebody who's not as motivated, but you're still pushing them along to see the results that they wanted?
Yeah, the hard-nosed approach really works for someone that, like, I think and that's where we talked on past podcasts about, like, getting to a deeper why of why someone wants to lose weight or get healthy. There's usually a reason behind it, but there's usually a lot of fear that people come in with. And I think people are more aware than we give them credit for as coaches. Sometimes it's like they know they haven't stuck to things before. There's doubts coming to their mind anytime they start a new program, whether you're signing up for like a membership on our site or whether you're working with a coach or a trainer. You're like, I've tried this before. There's all those thought loops going in of like, well, why is this going to be any different? And you get excited when you sign up and there's this like rush of excitement, but then there's the gap between like, okay, now how do I actually follow through? Like, oh shoot, now I actually have to like do the workouts and eat healthy. And the excitement of the early weeks are over. So the like beating someone up over it and being like, hey, like, why didn't you get a workout in? Why didn't you get your workout in? Like, that doesn't help people. They're like, yeah, I know that. And that's usually when I've seen people withdraw. Like if you try and
100%,
if you try and press in and then people pull back and then they end up dropping off because they could blame it on us as a coach. They could blame it on the time wasn't right. Then all the reasons come up of like why it didn't work this time. But that's what happens, I think, when you press too hard and don't really understand of where someone's coming from and understand those like the doubts and fears and things that they already have in the back of their mind.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing I've seen as a coach is, and you do have to tailor your coaching, just like any kind of leadership, to the individual. And you can't just say, hey, you have to come fit into my cookie cutter style. And that's why I'm not a huge fan when, who's the guy who wrote the book, like Relentless or whatever, Tim Grover, I think, like those kind of books. People look to that and they're like, that's how you should coach. And it's like, that's how you should coach if you're not coaching the 1%. This is the 0.0001% is who this guy has coached. So it's not an applicable coaching standard for everyone else. And when I hold people accountable, that's the thing that I've noticed is if you get harder press on the accountability, they start to withdraw, like you're saying. They no longer respond to accountability. They're not showing up for calls. They're not showing up for workouts. They are no longer interested. And it's because they're running from accountability. They know that they're not doing it and they would rather just run away. And so that's ultimately what this study, in my opinion, is looking at. Is like, how do we solve that problem? Like, how do we not run from accountability? How do we get past this honeymoon phase that you're talking about where people are really excited for, could be 7 days, could be 6 weeks, but then the grind eventually sets in where it's like, I just have to do this boring work for years on end to see results. And what's interesting about this study is they actually had really positive outcomes. So they coached people for 3 months utilizing these self-determination techniques, and we'll talk about what some of those are. So the intervention period was 3 months, but then they followed up over a 12-month timeline a year later to see how people were doing, and everything had a positive correlation. And what they were tracking objectively were physical activity, steps per day, sit to stand transitions, and sedentary behavior, sitting time. And I was going to let you hit on those, man. Like, why do you think that those three things are important? And like, why would they be tracked? Why wouldn't they track something else when it comes to this study? Like, do you think those are good? Like, do you think those are good things to track?
I do think they're good things to track, and I think they're applicable to people who, in the study, was middle-aged men that were overweight or obese. So it's like in that population, getting that population motivated, and we'll talk a little more about some of the motivational things they used, but getting that population to get up and move, just even like basic things is hard, let alone, hey, you need to go work out 3 times a week or 6 times a week in a gym. They're like, no way. But just getting them to move more and sit less can have a drastic improvement on your health. So if you have been away from working out for a while, getting into a workout program is a good goal at some point, but even just getting up and getting moving can have drastic effects on your health. And we've talked about it with NEAT, or the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically like how much you're moving throughout the day without realizing it. And even for people that are healthy and working out already, this is super applicable because that separates the people that are pretty healthy and follow a workout routine, and the ones that you see embodying health, the ones that you look up to and you're like, wow, that person's just like, they're not trying to be healthy, like they're just healthy. Those are the ones that are stacking all those things together of they're getting their workouts in, but they're getting steps, they're getting sunlight, they're eating well, they're respecting their body, they're getting good sleep. So if you're struggling in any of those areas, it's a lot of times some of these smaller things that can move the needle a lot more than people think. And that's why I thought it was cool that, even though they didn't have exercise in it, those are, in my opinion, still some good things to track and see improvements on, especially 12 months down the road.
Yeah, because this white knuckle approach to health and fitness doesn't really work, and we talk about it, and it's very, common thing, like habit stacking, right? It's like, and a very basic example of habit stacking would be I put my multivitamin on top of my coffee machine. So when I have coffee in the morning, I remember to take my multivitamin. And I like that for introducing new habits, but it's like, unfortunately, you have to do things all day, every day to maintain health, whether that's your diet, whether that's getting up, sitting less, moving around more, getting more steps in throughout the day, not in just one bulk of the day. Like I unfortunately can't sell you fitness in any other capacity. I know a lot of people are selling like a 12-week program, a 6-week program, and that's going to cure everything, but that's just a piece of the puzzle. The bigger piece is everything else. It's all of these other things, the physical activity and all the things that they were measuring. So at first when I read it, I was like, oh, why are we like looking at training time or nutrition? But they did look at those things through like in their 12-month follow-up, and they did have improved diet, body weight, and overall well-being. And their lifestyle physical activity was subjectively reported, but it was also higher after the intervention. And so I think it's good to know that this was actually effective and maybe one of the most underlooked and under-researched part of fitness programming or fitness research studies that we look at. Because normally we look at something and they're talking about how the bar speed increased or someone got stronger or whatever. This is like, we actually changed these people. That's huge. And that's why I really wanted to look at this. So we can dive into some of the things that coaches did, and maybe there's some takeaways for all the athletes out there of like, okay, what did these coaches do, and like how can we actually implement it other than simply just hire a coach who's good at what they do. Like, and that's not necessarily my takeaway. But there were 4 different things. One, they had a need supportive environment. So the coaches acted as facilitators, not experts. And I thought that was one of my biggest takeaways. Is it said in the study that the coaches were trained to facilitate a conversation as opposed to just tell you what to do. And that's how most programs are. It's like, yeah, hey, do X, Y, and Z, and you are fitter at the end of it. Period. Dot. What else do you need to know? They facilitated conversations about linking it to your personal goals. And so I think that that's one of the big things. I always push people to do the why exercise. Like, try to answer 5 whys deep on why you're doing something, why it's important to you. And then after you answer that why, answer why that previous thing is important to you, and get as deep as possible. Because if people don't have that big intrinsic motivator, they're not going to stick around, and you're not going to be there for a long time. And to be honest, I thought this was pretty common in coaching, but the more I thought about it, I was like, that's not. That's not even common in influencer culture. Like most people are not like trying to have conversations about why things are important. And I felt like that's a major part of why this was effective.
Yeah, and I've seen that and people I've coached, and good coaches do work themselves out of a job at some point. Like that's something that you get people to the point that they can sustain something independently is like the ultimate success as a coach. Not the best business model, but that's where in conversations I have with people, it always seems to, and there's a certain personality that does respond better. They're like, hey, like I need to be pushed. Like if I miss a workout or 2 workouts in a row, like get on me, send me a text, do that. And that's where knowing how people respond. But when you, when you meet them where you're at and have an actual conversation, this isn't even like, this isn't like coaching Jedi mind tricks or anything. It's just like being a human and having a conversation of like, hey, like you didn't log any workouts this week. Like, not to state the obvious, but we know that like what's going on. Can we what do you think we should do? Should we we can shorten the workouts up? We can go down to your goal is 3. Like, do we need to try and just hit 2 consistently? Like, do we need to cut the time down? Like, is the time too long? And then it makes them feel like they have ownership in it too. And it allows them some autonomy of like how to actually work through those problems because then down the road when they're on a different program or if they're still on your program, like they can start to go through that thought process of like, oh shoot, like I haven't hit 3 workouts 3 weeks in a row. Like, maybe I should cut it down to 2 and just like nail that. Or maybe I should do 30-minute workouts instead of trying to fit an hour one in. And it gives them some confidence to make those changes and be able to be more empowered in their health versus someone just being like, nope, here's your program, like do this and like, that's the only way you're going to get results.
Yeah. And so the first thing that you need to check off, and there are 4, just so everyone's following along. I'm going to go over 4 things. The first one we just talked about is need supportive environment in which the coach doesn't have to be an expert. So giving this to an athlete who maybe doesn't have a coach, like garage gym athlete who's following the programming but doesn't have a one-on-one dedicated coach. All you need is someone who you can talk through these things with. And so a need supportive environment can be a friend, it can be a spouse. Because it says very clearly coaches didn't need to act as experts. So once you have the program, say garage gym athlete, can you talk to somebody about it? You could do that in our community online. Like there are lots of ways to have a facilitator. So need supportive environment, very important. The next thing was having techniques for autonomy support. And so I talked about that a little bit, how they were linking things to personal values. Like I want to be able to play with my kids, those kind of deep why exercises. But it also did goal setting based on the individual's preferences. And I've talked a lot about this lately. Like if you hate kettlebells, don't do a kettlebell program. If you hate running, don't run. And that kind of goes against the grain of like, no, you just have to run 50 miles a week and you'll be a fit athlete. It's like, that's true. But if you hate running, what are you supposed to do? And so going around what your actual individual preferences are, that way you can actually make progress and feel autonomous in your decisions. And then I think having those personal values attached is just going to be a home run really for any goal that you're doing, whether that's entrepreneurship, fitness, anything.
Yeah, nothing to add there. I know we jumped in that a little bit in the past, but just like people skip that step, I think, because it's kind of gotten over communicated a little bit. And I think people get the like, oh yeah. Like I know that for some of the people that especially have been around our community for a while, it's like you've talked about that. Like I've talked about that a lot with clients and different things. So but don't skip that step. Like it's easy to look over and be like, oh, that doesn't really apply to me. Or like, I think I know my why, but like actually block some uninterrupted time to sit down with it and like get it on paper and really understand what that is and don't just gloss over it or think of a vague thing in your head.
Yeah. And then the next one is techniques for competence enhancement. And so this is similar in like, hey, if I don't like running, I won't do running. Okay, I'll do what I do like. But then it's also adjusting a challenge to meet your fitness or skill level was something that they had them do in the study. And this is where we have talked about and we push really hard on like why you should chase performance metrics, right? Is like, because you can adjust your level to match. You can try and get better at something. But something I like a lot, I've been doing the Strike Zero program. And just a quick, like how that works is you're basically doing max sets to failure, right? So and it's all body weight stuff. And so let's say I wanted to do 100 pull-ups in the workout. And normally you pick multiple exercises. And I've gone over the Strike Zero program before. Maybe I'll do another podcast where I detail out every little thing and give it to the community. But ultimately, let's say we choose 100 pull-ups. And the reason I love this program is because it auto-regulates to every individual. So if Dave, if you can do 30 strict pull-ups on your first set and I can do 15, it's auto-regulated to our competency level, like to our challenge level, right? And so I think that's something that people don't do enough, is like being able to actually make a program meet your needs. And now this is max effort for bodyweight stuff, but bodyweight's pretty safe. I'll go one step further. Like if that was the actual, Dave could do 30 strict pull-ups and I could only do 15, we both shouldn't be doing 100 reps. Like I should probably be doing 50 and Dave could do 100 total for the workout. But that's getting like into the weeds of that specific program. But I think things like that, like adjusting to your challenge or skill level, and I feel like that's something we do also by like prescribing percentages of your lifts. Like that's a very common example of like, let's do 50% of your back squat, as opposed to a lot of other programs out there that are like, do 3 sets of 10 of back squat today and you're going to be good. And it's like, am I? Like, should I be doing 50%, 60%? So I think that there's a lot of that has to be tailored to the individual. We've always been trying to do that Garage Gym Athlete with our programming, making everything tailored to the individual, whether that's percentages or RPE, something along those lines. Because I think that goes a long way in you feeling like you're actually doing something in the program and getting something out of it, not just following the nuts and bolts.
Well, I think, yeah, someone could look at, in our programming, like we're going through a cycle on interval weight training. And I think someone could look at that and be like, wow, it's like super advanced. And that's because it's, like a heavy barbell lift or an explosive lift, and then like 2 to 3 minutes of max effort cardio. But that's scalable to anyone. Like if someone's just starting out, that percentage on the barbell, it might be an empty barbell for a set of 8. And then you row at a pace that's, see how many meters you can get in 2 minutes, versus someone else might be, squatting 300 pounds and, busting out a whole bunch more meters on a run. But that's what's cool when you have those things. And that, again, it gives people confidence to be like, oh, I can do this. And you can see progress so much quicker in that versus like we talk about with some of the other body composition goals or something like, oh, I have a weight loss goal. It's like, you may, when you get towards the end of that, be seeing like a half-pound average difference a week versus like,
right.
Oh, I added 200 meters onto my row this week, like, and 10 pounds on the barbell. That's something that gives you a lot more confidence in the long run too.
Yeah. Now the last thing is basically the coaches implemented ways to promote relatedness, or this connectedness that we talk about. And this is the one I think is we struggle with. I wouldn't say just at Garage Gym Athlete. I think the world has moved very digitally focused, like a lot of people working from home, Zoom calls. It's a little bit harder to feel that connection and that relatedness. And I wanted to hash that out with you a little bit more and see what you thought people should do. I have a couple of ideas, but let's just say the goal is to have a human-to-human interaction in your fitness journey at some point. Like, what would you recommend people do if they're trying to get that human-to-human interaction, that checkbox? Because it's really important. I mean, even when you look at longevity studies, it's like people who played tennis and like all these things that are like team sports, you're doing with another person. Like, it just, every study you look at says you need to be, it doesn't have to be every day, but like you need to be checking this box. Like, how would you recommend people get that done?
I mean, I'm a big believer in family. So I think starting there is a great place. I think if you can involve, even young kids, just being like having them around when you're working out, even if they're not working out, if they're able to like have something you can do to scale it. It doesn't have to be a daily thing, but like on the weekend, Saturdays, if you're going to be working out, do a meet yourself Saturday, you're just trying to get a workout in the weekend. It's like, do it with your spouse, have them do something, like go for a family walk together. I mean, things outside of fitness of like, how many nights are you sitting down for a family dinner each week? Schedules get crazy with sports and different things. And it always baffles me how many families don't do that. It's just something that we prioritize, is like, how many meals can we get together in a week? And I know that's not directly fitness related, but like doing walks together, workouts with family.
It's related to like a health, like overall health, and well-being standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. Or finding other people. Like I love seeing other people working out with, like when I go around the neighborhood, it's like, oh, these people are working out together. I'm more like, I've always been more of a lone wolf workout type guy. Like I just like to get in and like, that's just how it's always usually been for me. But like, I know I could use more of that, of like finding workout partners and different things too, not necessarily to coordinate schedules every day, but every once in a while I know that, and that pushes me in ways that I don't get on my own either.
Yeah. And I think here's exactly what I think everyone should do. You should start a Meet Yourself Saturday club in your neighborhood. Now I've struggled with this, and one, I'm not the most social guy in the world. So, and then me reaching out to it, but reaching out for people to do it, sometimes they're a little too intimidated to come do something like that, especially like just the name of the workout, right? It's like meet yourself Saturday workout. It's like, what does that even mean? And you have to explain it. And they're like, oh, so it's gonna be really hard when I come over to your house. But I think something like that, if you could find a group of guys, to come over, 3-4 people. I used to do this all the time. Over the years, I had a good core group of people who'd come over for those workouts, and it wouldn't be a massive amount, 2, 3, 4 people, and we'd hit something like a Murph or whatever. And it does go a long way. Like there's a lot of camaraderie there. And I think this is the part where you're going to have to kind of foster this on your own. But if you have a garage gym, invite people over, because I'm like you, like I'll actually probably work out after this podcast. It's the middle of the day and like no one's coming over, like it's just going to be me, and I'm fine with that. I don't think every day has to happen, but I know like I have a friend who does that every single morning. He's got a neighbor who comes over at 6 a.m. Every single day, and they work out in his garage because his neighbor doesn't have a garage gym, and that's huge for them because he knows he's got to be up because that guy's going to show up at 6 a.m. Same with the other guys. Like I don't want to have him wake up and not be there. And so I think any way that you can start to bake this in, and I think we always overlook this. I'll admit I do completely. I'm like, I don't really need that. I'm like, I don't need it right now because I feel like most of my social interactions are like engineered at this point, either with like parents at sporting games or practices, or I get to hang out with my family all the time. But there'll be the case when there'll be a time when my kids are grown and they're not in the house anymore, and it'll just be me and Emily. And what if she doesn't want to do a Meet Yourself Saturday workout at that point in our life, right? So there are a lot of those things that I think this is one area I'm pretty weak, but I'd like to in 2026, once my personal life settles down a little bit, is like try to get that core group going like every single weekend. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, it's so important, especially for guys that are not the social types that we are, certainly not. But I worked out with a buddy and that was something I hadn't done. I did work out with him for probably 18 months. Like he was getting back into fitness. I'm like, hey, just come train. And it was huge for him and it's huge for both of us. There's ways that like, especially sometimes guys don't get that relational time with someone, like, and we're both very, family oriented in those things too. So we're like, we're not going to be hanging out 3 hours a week any other time in our life, because that's 3 hours away from our family. But like for something that we're both planning on doing already, it's like, okay, 3 times a week he came and trained, and you get like the speed that the relationship built and like how it improved our overall health, and those things too is stuff that wouldn't have happened without some of that.
Yeah. I mean, with how busy life is now with kids and everything else, I honestly, I'd tell everybody, even parents, friends, I'm like, you kind of have to meet me where I'm at. Like if you want to hang out or chat or whatever. And what I mean by that is like, come do a workout when I'm doing a workout. Meet me at a kid's soccer game or whatever. Like, cause there's no 4 hours of golf on a Saturday. Like that's just not happening. And to be honest, I hate golf. So I'm not missing out on a lot there, but that's basically everything they implemented. And now to like, I don't have a lot more to cover on the study other than it was a success. Their need satisfaction was increased at 12 months. Their self-determination score from all of these, like basically psychological measures they took, were higher at 12 months. And then the actual behavioral outcomes were higher at 12 months. Their sedentary behavior outcome was increased. And ultimately everything kind of worked better. And then there was need thwarting that was a negative correlation, meaning if the coach did have like a kind of lock someone up to where they didn't feel encouraged, like whatever, there was a negative correlation with that when coaches would do it. So it just kind of cemented, I know I don't really need to sell the self-determination theory, but it just kind of cemented like the importance of having those 3 things in your program and being able to do that without just having to hire a coach who's really good at tailoring their coaching ability to you as a person. But I think that we could take a lot from this study and just start to implement in our daily lives. So if I, put you in a corner here and I say, all right, Dave, what's one takeaway you have for garage gym athletes out there? How can they utilize this study other than all the little tidbits we talked about? Like how could they utilize this study? One big takeaway for everyone.
Yeah. Especially for the people in the GGA community that are already following the workouts you're doing, if you're struggling to follow the workouts, it's getting back to connecting to the why. Don't just withdraw. Don't like, it's easy to be like, oh, I missed that, or I missed a week. And that's when you need to lean in the most into the community we have, and to, reaching out to one of us, like pushing in when you want to withdraw. Like I think that's a temptation, and that's where like the camaraderie that they fostered in the study helped people to. They had data they were tracking. You could see like in the app where we program things, it's like you can see what other people are doing. You see the comments. You see like there's some objective data behind it, and not that you're necessarily competing against someone else, but you can see someone else is like, hey, I didn't want to get up today, but got up and got it done anyways, and that could be the thing that pushes you over the edge. But even if you're consistently hitting your workouts, I think the big thing is like find that next thing you can do and tie that to something. If it's like, hey, getting 2,000 more steps in a day, clean up some nutrition things, just find that next thing to kind of link yourself to and use some of these tools that we talked about to make it more of a habit that actually sticks versus the whole, I did it for 6 weeks, I fell off, I'm going to try it for another 6 weeks, New Year's comes around. Just get yourself out of that cycle with some smaller first steps.
Just a cycle of 4-week programs done with 4-week breaks or 8-week breaks or whatever. I would say my biggest takeaway is just going to be kind of drop the tough guy mentality. And like, if you need help, ask for help, get help, use some of these psychological principles. And that's what I like about looking at this data and research. Because again, my takeaway isn't go hire a coach. It's understand that you are a human being. And because you're a human being, you just have psychological tendencies that you might be that 1% anomaly, but you're most likely not. And so you need these things, right? You need to find things that you like to do. You have to be challenged in performance metrics to track them. You need to talk about it with other people. You have to be around other people to a certain degree. And so don't think like this, again, going back to the beginning, that hard-nosed coaching approach is always what you need to do. Like the David Goggins approach of just suck it up and get better. Like if you actually look at David Goggins, since I mentioned him, like he has some of the deepest wounds and trauma from his childhood. If you've read his book, like that, his intrinsic motivation because of the things that he went through is off the charts, and it's all intrinsic. And I'm actually surprised he hasn't lost it, to be honest. Like I think sometimes people work through those things and it's not like a motivator anymore, but it still is. You can see in everything that he publishes, like, yeah, he makes up haters, right? Like he has to do these things to like keep that motivation going, but it all stems back to like this huge intrinsic motivator. So if you don't have that, if you didn't have the childhood that David Goggins had, you don't have the intrinsic motivation that he has. You have to find your own intrinsic motivation. You have to find out why you want to do this, why you want to stick to it. And it's not just go be more like David Goggins, because that's how you're going to get tougher. It's be more like Jerred Moon. I'm saying that to myself, like I need to be more like me and understand what motivates me, because it's even shifted. Like I could say the whole, I want to be able to play with my grandkids when I'm older. I think I kind of used that back in the day, but that's not really it right now. Like the reason I'm pushing myself right now is because my boys are getting to training age, and I don't want them to see me not working out. I want them to see me working out. I want them to see that it's important. I want to show them. I want to teach them. I want it to be a part of their lives. That's everything for me right now from an intrinsic motivator. I know my why. It has very little to do with like how fast I can do Murph or how fast my mile times are. Like I like to track those things, but at the end of the day, it's not my why. It's not like, I want to get faster Murph because it'd be cool to have fast Murph time. It's like, no, I want my boys to see me train and stick to something and learn and fail and like all these things. I want them to see those things. So knowing that about myself, if I just said all that, do you think I'm skip my workout after this podcast is over? No. It's just like I just got a huge reminder of like why I'm doing all this. And so you have to get to that level and stop the whole like, why do I do it? Because we have to, and we do hard things. Like, yeah, we need to do hard things, but there's got to be a why behind it, right? So drop that tough guy mentality and just jump into a little bit more of like what the research is saying about psychology, and work with it. Don't work against it. Don't try to go, swim upstream all the time. It's not worth it.
And it's cool to be able to communicate it, but also like don't know that you can write down whatever, and if it motivates you, that's the most important part. Versus like some people want this altruistic thing, like you said, and it's great. Like if your desire really is like, I want to keep up with my grandkids, but if you're like just writing that down,
it's become almost like a cop out. To be honest, like I
not the real thing.
See that they even put that in the study, like that quote as like an example, and I'm like, yeah. Well, I just don't even think people are that long-term focused. Most people aren't. Yeah. They're not actually thinking about when they're 60, 70, 80 years old or whatever. Like they can't really picture that in their minds, So like what motivates you right now? What motivates you today?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong like that really is, but for most people that aren't like, if you're getting into the grandkid ages where you're like, okay, I'm turning 60 or something like that, it's like, it might be different, but for someone who's 30 trying to be like, oh, I just want to like keep up with my grandkids, it's like, no, you want to be confident and you want to be healthy and you want to look jacked and like, you want to like do all
You
these
want to be able to
things
take your
like
shirt off and like
because you could,
not worry about it. Yeah,
yeah,
like
not be
those
filled
reasons.
with doubt or anything. So don't be afraid to label what it actually is and don't like judge your answer. Like if that's what gets you motivated and keeps you showing up, like the why may change over time and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's what I want to show up other dads like on the like in on my kids' sports teams. Like I want to be able to. I want my kids to think that I'm more capable than all of them. Like that's okay. That might make me sound like a little bit of a jerk, but it's just, hey, I want to be more physically capable than anybody you've seen before. And like sometimes they'll be like they'll point out some guy who's like really jacked, like hugely jacked, probably on something. And I'm like, yeah, but can he run a mile as fast as me? And they're like, probably not. And I'm like, that's right. You got to be you got to be all of it, have all of it at all times. So anyway, you got to find what motivates you. It could be a myriad of different things, but ultimately you need to write those things down and remind yourself daily if you have to about why. Because, dude, I've had those moments. I'm sure you have too, where you're just kind of at the bottom of the barrel, like emotionally, mentally. And I think it takes a lot of self-awareness in those moments to still push through and like eat healthy when you don't want to, or do the workout when you don't want to. Maybe you've been in those moments, Dave, recently because like you didn't sleep a lot because of the young kids, stress at work, or like whatever's happening in life, and then you still have to get it done. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. We don't all succeed 100% of the time. But I think if you can have some self-awareness in those moments of like, this is a tough moment and I don't want to at all. And I become like the worst person in the world when like internally when I get to that point, because it's hard to make me want to do anything. And I still like it takes every bit of willpower to like force my hand to be like, write down what your goal is. Write it down. Like I have to like walk myself through that. And I'm not saying those happen every single week, but I have been through those moments where I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Like I'm just done. And I'm like, no, come on, man. Like bring it back. Why are you here? What are you doing? And it's really hard to do. But if you can get to that level of self-awareness, which again, I don't have a 100% success rate, it really goes a long way. And I think it shapes what we're talking about, like becoming a different person, not just succeeding in a program. It's like succeeding over 12, 24, 36 months. I think that's where it becomes really important.
Yeah, it's such a long game, and just know it's normal to have those. For us, for you, for anyone, it's like it's normal to have those. So bookmark this. You have to actually bookmark the podcast. You can, but just like put a bookmark in your head of like, hey, like I expect, not in like a negative, pessimistic way, but like expect tough times to happen and just have some tools in your toolbox. Like the more you can do that when you're in a healthy place, is in like, oh, I'm confident right now, my mindset, I'm rolling, I'm eating good, I'm working out. Like that's when you need to start building these strategies up, versus if you try and do it when you're at a low, it's so much harder. Like you have to force yourself to get into it. So these are the things that you want to work on, even when especially when things are going good. Don't just save it for when you haven't worked out in 2 weeks or 2 months or anything. Like work on these things when you're in a good spot.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Hopefully a lot of good takeaways on the self-determination theory and this study overall. As always, if you ever want to like dive into these studies more, it's on the blog. So if you go to garagegymathlete.com, hit the blog, we have a full blog post there, typically with a transcript of the podcast. You can click on the link and any of the takeaways that you want. So if you ever want to dive deeper into these, just go to the garagegymathlete.com, check out the blog, and you can look at the studies that we're looking at each and every single week. And while you're there, if you're just moseying on over to the Garage Gym Athlete site and you're not signed up for our training, you might want to go ahead and fix that problem. I've always said it's a problem. It's a problem if you're not signed up for our training. So go ahead and go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial, and test it out. See what you think. See what you think of the programming. If you like it, awesome. If you don't like it, let us know. And I'll say that for our current athletes too. If you don't understand something, you want to know the why behind something, just ask us, and we'll get you a response, and we'll talk about why we programmed it that way and how we utilize some of these theories and ideas in our programming methodology. But that's the most important thing, is just getting out there. So all of our athletes who are doing the training, maybe you don't feel like you struggle with this stuff at all. I know we have some OGs who've been in the community for years, some of the most consistent humans I've ever encountered. And I appreciate each and every single one of you being consistent and sticking with the programming. and staying with Garage Gym Athlete. But that's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.